rather than figure out a way to make it pleasurable and reward yourself or to chop it up into smaller pieces to get the ball rolling, you just sit there and scroll through social media. You're a procrastinator. That is an old story because where you're headed, there's no room for that. And that's not even a part of your paradigm. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to day 4 of the Pop-Up MOXIE podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Yesterday, we talked about what the MOXIE mode actually is, and we also took a peek into time management and why becoming a time management ninja is so important to your success. And I gave you 4 hot tips on how to hack into that right now and blow up your life with time management skills so that you can manage that gap between who you are now and where you're headed and who you're becoming. That's really important. Go back and watch that. And I, of course, want to know beneath each video, let me know what your biggest takeaway is, what you love. And don't forget, guys, subscribe right now to this channel and smash that bell so that you can get notifications of when I send out next videos. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about, kind of the shadowy side of transformation because it's real and it's not anything we have to avoid. We can talk about it. We can learn about it. We can celebrate it. And it really becomes this beautiful walk we get to traverse down, to which we learn not only about ourselves, but about other people and about what works for us and what doesn't. It's just as much about accepting and bringing in this transformation, the MOXIE mode, this zone of being bold, declaring what you want, deciding and going for it is just about as much about calling in as it is about releasing. After we talk about the traps, the sort of shadow side and ego death, and the beauty of it as well, and how to work with that energy, I want to talk to you and invite you into the actual course and give you a little bit more context on that. It's so awesome. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get started into that course with you guys. Let's get into it. When we are in that season of development, it is exciting, but it is also work, as I've been talking about. And I think that this gets a bad rep. I think that this gets put on a pedestal. That transformation we automatically assume is going to be something that we can't handle. Or if you've seen other people try and go after goals and have failed, we take on their story that it's going to be the same for us. And that really isn't the case at all. Oftentimes, your transformation is going to be just for you. It's going to be the source's gift to you to uncover falsehood, uncover other people's energies and identities that you picked up along the way, and to release them so that you can stand convicted and boldly in who you really are. And it's not easy, and it's really kind of awkward at times. So I wanted to talk about this specifically so that, one, we could just name it. When you name the challenges that are going to come up for you, the challenges that you guys might be experiencing even right now, because I know a lot of you are in that transformation gap right now where you feel a part of you is dying and a part of you is coming to life. And so reconciling that, balancing it, evening it out, sculpting it a little bit so that it actually feels digestible and it actually feels like it could take a place inside of us is really important and beneficial on so many levels, not only for you, but for your family, for your friends, for your coworkers. Like, if you're freaking out all the time, that's not good because people are going to feel that. That's going to affect your relationships and put strain on that, but it's also going to deter you from wanting to keep going. And that is the opposite of MOXIE. Remember that MOXIE is the ability to keep yourself going despite what's happening outside of you. You are your internal cheerleader. You are your internal coach. You are your internal Buddha that can come in at a moment's notice and pick your ass back up and get you fired up again and get you dedicated and put you back inside that seat of achievement, the seat of belief where you are unstoppable again. People who have MOXIE are a very interesting character, very interesting type of person because they don't care too much about what's happening around them. And it's a beautiful place to be if you think about it, because you're not waiting for someone to come in and be like, good job, keep going. You do that for yourself. And that's a really helpful resource for when things around you are falling apart, when things around you don't feel so good. Maybe your relationship falls apart. Maybe you're getting a divorce. Maybe you just got laid off or fired. Maybe you quit. Maybe someone around you just got diagnosed with something. When life really happens and the shit hits the fan, we need to be able to rely upon ourselves to carry us through the dark times. Now, we don't have to do it alone, of course, but I'm really speaking to the energy of this course in particular in this pop-up podcast, which is about you are your own life jacket. You are your own resource and the anchor really to draw yourself back into why you're doing this. So we really want to make sure that we have the ability to call out what might stand in the way of that, because the moment you call something out, it comes out of the shadows and it's like you're telling it to sit right there and don't move till I tell you to. Until you call it out, it stays lurking in the shadows. I always talk about it's the monster under the bed. Think about when you were a little kid and you had to turn off the lights, and then what, you like ran and jumped in bed, right? Because you were afraid something was going to grab your feet because there's something terrible under the bed. And then it takes like an adult to come in and be like, let's look under the bed and see what's really going on. And you look and there's just dust bunnies and an old pair of shoes and there's no monster. The same thing can be applied to our own shortcomings and things that sabotage us, the old stories, the old patterns and behaviors that are not helpful. Instead of letting them lurk there, ruling over us, creating some false stories, false narratives that really suck our energy and that really mindfuck us, we have to be able to look under the bed. And doing that is naming them. So when you can name that you are someone who likes to self-sabotage by not being strict with your boundaries with social media. And the moment you start getting going on something, you're just like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and mindlessly scroll and procrastinate because I really don't want to get going on the thing that I actually have to do, but I don't want to do it. It's so unpleasurable. And rather than figure out a way to make it pleasurable and reward yourself, or to chop it up into smaller pieces to get the ball rolling, you just sit there and scroll through social media. You're a procrastinator. That is an old story, because where you're headed, there's no room for that. And that's not even a part of your paradigm. So we have to call that out now. Or you might be someone who likes to actually deplete your power. And how that shows up is by you overspending your money. So you're doing great, you're getting promotions, or maybe you're like me, you're working as a solopreneur, a CEO of your own business, and you're making money. Well, all of a sudden you go and you got to buy all the things because really you're hiding it under, well, of course I need a new camera. Well, of course I need new clothes, right? But actually what you're doing, the motive there is to deplete your resources so that you actually can't expand or feel safe with money, which that actually matches your paradigm. Not that you're wealthy and then wealth is easily coming to you and then you can hold it. It's that you are actually not meant to hold wealth. So if you deplete your power, you go right back to the old story. Plus, you don't have to be responsible because money actually expands you. And when you expand, more people have access to you. And that means your responsibility goes up. So it's not that you are an overspender, it's that you're afraid of responsibility. We got to call that out. Boom, call it out, which I have done. That's my story right there. By the way, the one of overspending, that's me. I had to realize that. And it took a long, long time to get there. Just something to think about there, where we get into that self-observation, we can really start to learn about ourselves. And this is the mode I need you in when you're going through the season of development. You need to be in the witness consciousness. You need to take that seat, that perch inside of you that's like, I'm not going to judge this, but I'm just going to witness. I'm going to see myself go through the motions. And when I see a behavior I don't like, I'm not going to scold myself. I'm not going to feel shame. I'm just going to note it and ask, what other behavior could I do instead that would support my growth and move me ahead in the direction of the identity I need to become? And when you can do that, remain neutral, you take the sting, you take the pain and the energy suck out of discovering our shortcomings. out of discovering where we're self-sabotaging in all the little micro ways. Because if you focus on that and it becomes a story of shame, you're actually going to push energy right into that, and it stays there longer than it needs to. So when you observe a behavior you don't like in yourself and you remain calm, you remain neutral, you hold the power. You call it out and it sits right there like a good little doggy, and it will sit there because you told it to. Now, if you freak out or make a big story about it or start to cry or like, whoa, out comes the trauma about it, what that can do is it actually comes out from the shadows, but then it's bigger than you and you've given out all of your power. So in my strategy, I encourage you to name it, but remain calm. Feel it if you've got to feel it, but do your best to not make a story about it. Unless you want to make a story, unless you want to work through your wounds, that's a whole different practice. That's a shadow work practice. And that's appropriate over there when you're intentionally wanting to do shadow work. Okay, so hear that. I'm not saying don't do shadow work. I'm not saying bypass. Do not bypass. That's a stupid idea. But instead, I'm saying really know why you're doing what and when to do what. I'm saying right now for my strategy, we're not talking shadow work at all. We're talking note your behaviors on an objective level, not subjective, okay? And then you're just going to acknowledge it. That's not a good behavior. Old Kim would do it, so that makes sense that it's still here. But future Kim, the one that is at the start line, the one that is just past her MOXIE mode, the one that's like, yes, I'm here, I'm determined, I decided I'm not going home ever. She doesn't do that anymore. Okay, so what is the new behavior I can replace that with? And think back to the lesson about the neurons. Where can I funnel more excitement and more time in the new behavior, which will, because remember, your energy is just competing. Who gets more energy wins. That's it. Who gets fed more energy and attention and your focus wins in terms of the brain and neuroplasticity. So you've got to give more time and energy and focus into the new behavior. Be observant and be gentle and be objective and get ready to ask that question. Once you observe a bad behavior, go, okay, that's not good. That's bad. That's not going to help me. I don't like that behavior. Fine. But what's the new move here? And this is what's going to take you the effort of figuring out what works for you, not necessarily what anyone else has done before. And the reason that this is important is because your big goal and your big dream is going to require that you step into places, behaviors, mindsets that you've never been before, that you've never done before, you've never even considered before. You've never seen anyone else do it before. So there might be a resistance at first to go there, but I want you to start to accept and honor the first hits you get, the first ideas you get on possible solutions. They might be unconventional, and you guys know I'm all a part of the unconventional path. That is my tagline and my bio on Instagram. That is like what I'm leading with now. Be willing to be shown in your intuition, in your mind's eye, the step that needs to come in, the new habit that needs to come in that looks nothing like anything you've ever seen before. That's a good sign. That means you are opening enough. You're being shaped by this work. You're being shown by this work. So start to get in the habit of being open to new skills and new ideas coming in to step you toward the new identity. When you get there and you're finally in your new identity, it's going to be a whole new space. And you're going to have this pride of knowing that you got there on your own accord, that you arrived fully intact as you, authentically. And then you stand even taller. You stand even more convicted. You stand with more confidence, ready to actually do the thing, ready to pull the trigger, ready to leap off the starting blocks when that gun fires to go. You're ready for the invitation to step on stage. You're ready for that job interview. You're finally fully ready and integrated and confident to ask that person out on a date, to start that podcast, whatever the big scary thing is that was scary before. It's not even scary anymore because you fully identified as that person. But the way you got there was so innovative and so different and so uniquely you that it shapes you into who you're supposed to be, which is another version of yourself, authentically you. It's the next timeline of you, but it's you nonetheless, but it's going to look, walk, talk, and feel like you've never felt before. So getting there becomes really exciting and pleasurable. It's like a mystery novel unraveling because you're willing to, in the moments where it was really shaping you, the work was shaping you, you were willing to be open and contemplative and curious about how can I do this my way? So let me circle back to the feelings that you might have when you're going through this challenge, when you're going through the actual work and the work is actually shaping you. It's going to feel beautiful at times. It's going to feel like you're actually being walked to the start line rather than you doing the walking. There's some higher power that's guiding you at times, but then there's also going to be the real times where you're humans like, I'm done with this. There's going to be moments, and you might even be feeling this now, where there's one part of you that's still got a foot on the land over here on your old self, and there's a foot on the land over here that's in your new self. And sometimes it feels like the land is just getting further and further away, and you're like, oh my God, I can't do a full straddle here. My legs will rip off, And there's times where you're trying to really pull them closer and closer together, the land together. But in those moments, I want you to remember that this was intentional. This is a part of the process. If it were completely easy, you would not feel the joy and rewards of actually being prepared. Preparation is a badge of honor. And when you're prepared and opportunity comes knocking, most people are going to look around and go, God, that was a lucky break. And you'll know deep down it had nothing to do with luck. Because all the while no one was looking, you were deeply preparing, shaping yourself, forming yourself through the fire of discipline, through the season of development, to become the bold, brave, MOXIE you that won't turn away no matter what's happening on the outside of yourself. When you can love yourself through the mud, when you can be in that witness consciousness and watch yourself and correct the unpleasant behaviors. And when you can see your challenges as a tool for transformation rather than a weapon, you will actually start to love the difficult moments. And maybe not love is the right word, but I've absolutely experienced this for myself. When I now have a moment of challenge, of course I feel it. I don't like it at first. I go through all the natural reactions, but then I don't stay there long. There's a quick moment where I'll change into, okay, well, I'm really excited to see myself on the other side of this. Because goddamn, this is huge and this is ugly and this is painful and I don't like this, but this is what I need to help me change and transform and develop the next set of skills so that I can be at the next level of operation, whether that's personally or in my business, whether that's in friendships or my relationship, my romantic relationship, or that's with money. It all applies. And the only reason I can confidently say that that's my mindset now, again, I feel it, it's unpleasant, but I quickly move into, oh, cool, this is for my benefit, is because I practiced it at a slower rate, which is what we're really going to get to do together, side by side, hand in hand in MOXIE 1.0, the 2-week course. I want you to feel the tension of your transformation. Feel it, feel the resistance that builds, and learn how to hold it together as a group. Because the people that can learn to hold themselves steady and continue the course while they're in that mode of tension And while everything in their brain is saying, this isn't you, you shouldn't be doing this, people are going to think you're weird, people are going to ask you questions, so and so is not going to understand this, you're going to fail. Because you guys know that story, right? You know that voice. While the mind's doing that, if you can hold and persevere and double down into the belief on your, like, bet on yourself, double down on yourself, you will come out of that not only faster than ever imagined, but so freaking new and reborn in many ways. And community is a huge part of that, because we need to be able to reflect back to each other that it's really tough right now. It's really weird. I can't even explain it with words. I feel extra tired today. And that's usually how it shows up. You'll just hit a wall of fatigue, or you'll just be a little extra cranky. Sometimes your body will even be sore. You're like, I haven't even worked out. And these are all signs that you're going through transformation. Instead of looking at them as a negative, you start to get curious about it and support it and know that, okay, this is part of the journey. It's part of the transformation. It's happening on all my levels. It's happening on all layers of the human being. That's exactly how it should be. So along with feeling a little bit of fatigue, some soreness, headaches come up, and it's like, when am I going to experience the bottom of this? What is at the bottom of this? How much longer do I have to wait? How much longer till this feels good? That's another big one. People often want to rush to it feeling good. But again, this is where the practice of holding the tension, holding yourself steady, staying dedicated, remembering why you're doing this, and then relying and double down on the tools. Because when you're up here, you're just going to want to escape. But when we double down on the actual tools and the time management system that supports you in that process, you keep going. And this is what is required of you to be the champion of your own life. This is what is actually required to transform your life and turn it around. Those of you that are watching this right now that are like, Kim, I've really lost myself. I don't know who I am anymore. And if you're in your 40s like me, or your late 30s, you're probably experiencing that, because that's kind of what happens. We just look around and we're like, whose life is this? And when did this all happen? And you know what? I'm not happy anymore. And I feel guilty about that, because everything on paper looks great. Why am I not happy? Why am I not satisfied? What am I not looking at? What part of me is suffering right now? I went to the doctor and the doctor says everything's fine. Why do I have these headaches? Why do I have this indigestion? Right? There's a sign there. There's a big sign on the wall that's it's your body, it's everything that's saying, listen, we need to change this. Not everything needs to change. You don't need to flush everything down the toilet, but there is a system. There is a way of being. There is a spirit inside of yourself that you get to summon. And then plop that spirit, plop the energy right inside of a blueprint that's about time mastery. Because remember, you are time, that allows you to discover yourself, that allows you to feel proud, that allows you to not stop and sabotage yourself along the way. When we are totally transforming, we are saying goodbye to a part of us that we've known forever. And this is what I mean by ego death. It's big in the spiritual world, and ego death really refers to when your known subjective self, all your likes and all your dislikes, your story changes dramatically. And it's beautiful, but it's also really terrifying. And if you don't have a community there to support you in that, it feels really isolating, and it can feel really scary, and it can really mess with your head and put you into anxiety and depression. So it's important to have that sound wall. It's important to have that mirror of community there to support you. When your ego is dying, it literally feels like a death. There are plenty of moments too where it's not uncommon to have suicidal ideation. In that moment, like, it's a big deal, but it's actually a part of your spiritual growth. It should be a sought after experience. We don't teach that enough in our modern society. We don't talk about that enough. So when it happens, we go haywire and it feels terrible. And sometimes people do take it to the limit and too far. But in spiritual world, it's like, cool, my ego's dying. Good. I actually decided that I wanted this to happen. So it's not so bad when it happens. I recognize it's happening for me, not to me. And on the other side of spiritual death, on the other side of ego death, is your new identity. And it's a more polished, higher vibrational identity. It's a more spiritually awakened identity. And this is what gets to happen for you on smaller micro levels inside of this type of philosophy of training yourself, of staying under the tension, where you're both formed and shaped and burned and blessed by the heat, by the discipline itself. You shed, you have to like burn off parts of you that are no longer helpful, but that have really been a part of your identity up until this point. You have to say goodbye to them. And so there is a part of you that has to bless that and love that and do some sort of ceremony to close that out. It's really important. I did that a lot when I was going through my divorce. I spent a lot of time down by the lake, for example, here in Oswego. And I use those moments by the lake to really connect with the part of me that was married and that was dead. And it felt like a death. If you've ever been through a divorce, it literally feels like a giant funeral for yourself and for everything you've ever known. It's terrible. And I wasn't even the one that wanted the divorce. So, I mean, it's bad for both parties, whether you're the divorcer or the divorcee. But I had to really mourn everything, right? The idea of the big house, the idea of marriage, the idea that that's all I ever needed. In mourning that version, I got to make room for and space for who I was becoming. And that next evolution of me was so much cooler, so much happier, so much more vibrant, and allowed me to love myself, which then allowed me to find the love of my life. We just have to be aware and embrace that these moments are a part of it. They're a part of the journey. And so I say to you, and those of you that are watched all 4 of these pop-up podcasts, you're obviously a spiritual warrior. You're someone who is a badass. You're someone who has MOXIE already. And there's a part of your soul right now that's like, I needed to see this. I needed to watch these videos, not to really necessarily learn a skill, although we did cover skills, and we're going to cover a lot more of hard skills and technology inside of the upcoming course. But you needed to hear this to remember. This work isn't to help you go really become someone new. It's about you calling in the part of you that already exists. It's about reclaiming your MOXIE. It's about reclaiming the grit. To have that sort of fire under your ass, it's like, I'm here to have an incredible life filled with meaning, period. That's the decision. MOXIE's coming up. It's going to be an incredible experience. This is not a course where you come in and I just talk at you, and then when the course concludes, you go out and you try. This is a course in which we are going to be rolling up our sleeves and actually designing and working and creating in real time together. This is for the people who are done with sitting around and sitting in this pool of the story of I'm a procrastinator. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm done being in between 2 shores and not being able to handle it well. If that's you and you're ready to take action, but you want to know how, like the art of taking action, then this is the course for you. There's this leg of the journey in MOXIE 1.0 that is all about the summoning up of the character, the building of the character, the determination, the decision making that's needed to enter into the MOXIE mode. And then once we're in the MOXIE mode, we're running the race together. So I'm getting you to the start line and you and I are going to run the race together. Because there's multiple touch points inside of the training where you're going to get a lot of visibility with me. So we're totally obliterating hesitation. We're obliterating together excuses. We're obliterating procrastination. At the same time, planting the structure and the foundation for you to feel so secure and so stable and knowing who you are and where you're heading and in a system that's going to get you there. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see you inside. Thanks again for being here. You guys, if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel. I'd love to have your subscribership. I'd love to have you hit that bell so you can get notifications. I release videos every single week here on the channel, as well as YouTube shorts. So look for them. But above all, do me a favor and underneath this video, comment. What did you love? All through videos 1 through 4, but specifically this video, what was your biggest takeaway? And you might even answer these questions below in the chat. I love to hear from you guys. And thank you again for being here. I'm going to leave you with these few questions to ponder. Question number 1. Why do you think you're really procrastinating or hesitating? Let that simmer and trust the first answer you get. And you might even ask that why that's true, and that's why that's true, and go for 4 or 5 whys until you get to the essence of it. Remember, we're not doing any trauma story here. We're not doing any shadow work. This is just you asking questions and observing. Question 2. Why might you be second guessing yourself right now? If you are at all. And if you said that you're not, I want you to really look deeper, because most of us are, myself included, second guessing yourself on some aspect of your life. Call it out. What is that? And why do you think that is? 3, who taught you that? Mom, dad, caregiver, older brother, older sister, who do you think it was that role model to you second guessing yourself? Question number 4 is gets you thinking a little bit more long term with this and motivates you. So everything has a consequence, positive and negative. This first one gets you to think about positive consequence. So what is the consequence of taking action and starting to train in the season of development? Everything we've been talking about in days 1 through 4. What's the positive consequence here? There's always a positive consequence. And number 5, what's at risk if you don't? What's really at risk if you don't apply this methodology into your life? What's at risk if you don't join MOXIE 1.0? What's at risk if you don't get going and trying to figure out and apply those time wizardry skills to your life? Whatever action it is that you want to take after these 4 days, what's at risk if you stop? What's at risk if you don't keep going? All right, you guys. There we are, the end of the show. Thank you so much again for being here. It's been awesome. It's been a joy having you. And I really deeply hope that you apply these lessons to your life earnestly and get the joy, reap the benefits of this, because you deserve that MOXIE life. You deserve a life filled with achievement and joy and meaning. And it's right there, just on the other side of a little bit more strategy in your life. So congratulations on getting this work done. It was an honor having you here, you guys. And I hopefully will see you soon inside of that MOXIE 1.0 course. Bye, everyone.